I realized instantly I was in the wrong place the moment I caught that woman's grin, tight as a jam zipper and every bit as phony. It was the annual Apex and Systems Gala. One of those gatherings where inflated egos strut around in rented tuxedos pretending the business isn't smoldering behind them. I'd skipped the last 3 years because I break out in hives from fake laughter and overcooked chicken. But this year, the invitation wasn't optional. You know that HR tone. It's not a suggestion, it's professional blackmail. So I went, straightened my blazer, forced on the of course I'm delighted smile, and sat at a table I hadn't chosen. Right across from me sat the CEO, Randall Kane, and his wife Cynthia, who could have walked straight out of a luxury SUV commercial. Bleached hair, glassy stare, diamonds louder than her personality. The sort of woman who makes you feel sticky just by making eye contact. She rarely spoke to me in past years. But this time, she waited until dessert. She leaned across her untouched tiramisu like we were sharing a secret between old friends. The perfume hit first, something caught between gardenia and gin martini. Then came the words, sharp and hushed. You're lucky my husband keeps you around. 7 syllables. And suddenly, the room sounded like it was underwater. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just smiled politely, as if she'd praised my outfit. But inside, inside something cracked. That wasn't just cattiness. It was a warning. A shot across the bow disguised as small talk. In that instant I knew 2 things. 1. Cynthia Kane saw me as a threat. 2. Randall Kane had clearly complained about me at home, which meant I had gotten under his skin. And that was interesting. Quick side note, if you're listening right now and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, you're basically Cynthia, whispering passive-aggressive digs at someone who built the company's backbone. So do the thing, like subscribe, it helps us keep sharing stories where people like Randall finally get what's coming. Back to that night. The rest of the dinner blurred together. Forced laughter, champagne toasts about, resilience in uncertain times, and Randall chuckling way too hard at a board member's golf story, like it was prime stand-up. But me? I was already strategizing. That whisper wasn't random, it was a chess move. A warning shot. And I knew my seat at the table was heating up by the second. Monday proved me right. My calendar, once filled with board prep calls, leadership reviews, and high-level strategy, suddenly looked like a rookie's inbox. Meetings vanished. Projects were reassigned. A junior VP I had personally mentored was suddenly leading a workflow I built from scratch. Nobody said a word. Classic corporate maneuver. Chop someone off at the knees, then act like they just forgot how to stand. And Randall? He was too sloppy to play it quietly. He started skipping eye contact in the hallways. Started CCing my peers on nitpicky feedback emails. One day in the pantry, I overheard the tail end of a whisper. She's not as indispensable as she thinks. That's when it clicked. They wanted me out. But here's the thing people like Randall never understand. They confuse visibility with value. They think whoever talks loudest in meetings is the one keeping the company afloat. Meanwhile, I was the one patching holes he never even noticed. I rebuilt the post-merger operations pipeline. I handled damage control when our CTO forgot to renew the AWS license and our entire system went dark for 6 hours. I was the one calming the board when 2 major clients nearly walked away. I didn't need applause. But I wasn't going to swallow disrespect either. So when Miguel, the board liaison, quiet guy in gray suits, sharp as a blade, stopped me in the hallway and said, "Do you have a minute to look over something for us?" I didn't hesitate. I said yes. And that's when the opening move appeared on the board. It began with small shifts. Tiny tells only a veteran would notice. My name missing from an invite. A status update rerouted to someone else. A file I authored mysteriously listing another person in the metadata. Quiet sabotage, like dust swept under the rug until it starts choking you. By Wednesday, I'd been unlooped from 3 regular meetings, including the strategic forecast call I'd led 6 straight quarters. Gone. No explanation. My Slack access to the vendor billing channel? Wiped. When I asked our fresh-out-of-college analyst what happened, he shrugged and said, "I thought it was intentional."
Right.
Just like my accidental removal from the product realignment task force. Or how Kyle from BizOps, a man whose greatest claim to fame was remembering to unmute once, was suddenly rewriting my quarterly review deck. The real punch landed Friday. Passing the glass conference room by the exec suite, I saw my project, my data, being presented by someone else. And there sat Randall, presiding like Moses at the mountaintop. Our eyes met. He winked. Not erasure, execution. Slow, deliberate. And he wanted me to watch. For a moment, I wondered if I was paranoid. Maybe this was just messy reorg fallout. Maybe Randall meant it when he said, "We're spreading leadership opportunities more broadly." A phrase that sounds noble until you realize it only applies to men under 35 who golf with him. But then it grew colder. A performance alignment survey mysteriously surfaced with my name conspicuously missing. I was cut from the next investor prep session, the very one I'd managed flawlessly for years. A junior I trained began emailing me like I was an outside consultant, an unnecessary ghost. Randall's tone shifted too. Once all smiles. Couldn't do it without you.
Now?
Sterile, distant. Addressed me as Miss Doyle in a company-wide email.
Twice.
As if I were a stranger. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Because just then, a door cracked open. It was Alexa, executive assistant on the liaison team. Sharp, discreet, ex-legal. We weren't friends, but we'd shared silent glances during disasters. She pinged me. "Can you swing by my desk for 5?" When I arrived, she handed me a slim envelope. No label. No branding. Just said, "Don't open that here." Then quietly added, "The lead investor wants another set of eyes on internal spending. Off the record." And in that moment I knew the real game had just begun. I arched a brow. Why me? Alexa tilted her head like I'd just asked if fire was hot. Because you know where the bodies are buried. And you never ask the wrong people the right questions. That night, I went home and didn't sleep. Not from fear, though that was there too. No, it was from clarity. Because if someone like Alexa was stepping out of the shadows, that meant the board was finally paying attention. And Randall's little theater act might have just blown up in his face. He wanted me sidelined. What he didn't realize was he'd just handed me the match and poured the gasoline.
All I had to do now was strike.
The envelope was blank, but it may as well have been ticking. Inside, a 2-page memo. Precise, surgical. No fluff, no pleasantries. Just dates, numbers, and a request laced with urgent politeness. Preliminary irregularities in discretionary spending. It said, cross-reference with department budgets over the last 6 quarters. Discretion advised. No mention of Randall's name, but his fingerprints were smeared all over it, greasy and obvious. I didn't reply right away. Just read it twice, then slipped it inside a National Geographic in my tote bag. It felt like hiding a scalpel in a cookbook. Next morning, I grabbed coffee with Miguel, the board liaison who once told me he trusted spreadsheets more than people. He didn't waste a second. "This stays between us," he said, stirring his espresso like it had personally wronged him. "No email chains. No forwarding files. You work local. You print nothing." "You want an internal audit?" I asked. He shook his head. "We want the truth. Call it whatever you want." Then he added something that landed like a gavel. "Too many people here manage their image, not the reality." I'd been waiting 10 years to hear someone say that out loud. So I got to work. Not glamorous work. Fluorescent lighting, endless spreadsheets, combing through line items and vendor logs untouched since the Obama years. I wore headphones, kept my eyes dead, played dumb in meetings. Let Kyle believe he was clever taking over my projects. Let Randall think I was sulking in irrelevance. Meanwhile, every suspicious expense I found, I logged in a local folder labeled efficiency notes, innocent enough to avoid suspicion if Randall or his cronies poked around. And oh, the rot surfaced quickly. Company cards tied to hotel, client entertainment, where no meetings were scheduled. A $15,000 strategic bonus to a manager 2 weeks after his brother-in-law, 0 tech skills, got hired to run our CRM migration. A $42,000 marketing campaign that produced nothing but a LinkedIn post and custom mugs no one ordered. But the smoking gun? Travel reimbursements. 5 separate Miami flights, each billed under different departments, none tied to clients or conferences. Weekend hotel suites labeled Executive Strategic Workshop. Every ledger signed off with the same initials, RK. I wasn't shocked by the initials. What stunned me was how sloppily he'd covered his tracks. Like scribbling his name in crayon across stolen cash. Like no one would dare question the king. The deeper I dug, the more his empire looked like a toddler's blanket fort, propped up with pillows, lies, and illusion. I cross-checked past finance reports and found one quarter where company-wide budget cuts were announced. The same quarter Randall expensed a leadership retreat at a Sedona spa. Facials, massages. One invoice simply read, Cacao Ceremony, Renewal of Intent. I almost snapped my pen in half. But I didn't get angry. I got colder. I sorted everything into 3 buckets. Waste.
Fraud.
Obstruction. Every file screenshot, every PDF, every sketchy memo, backed up on a locked flash drive, printed once, then hidden in a manila folder under my bathroom sink labeled car manuals. Miguel checked in every few days. Never calls, just Slack messages. How's the weather? Still raining on your side? I'd reply, umbrellas holding, skies clearing. Childish.
Perfect.
The only one who knew? My cat, Pepper. She'd sit beside my laptop, staring like she couldn't decide if I was solving a crime or starting one. Maybe both. By week 2, I had enough evidence to make Randall sweat bullets in a sauna. But I wasn't ready to stop.
Not yet.
I wanted the thread that would unravel the entire sweater with a single pull. And I knew it was coming. They say snakes don't hiss before striking. Randall? He couldn't resist. He wanted people to see the venom. It began subtly, the way retaliation always does. A cold shoulder here. A mysteriously delayed invoice there. My badge access to the finance archive, where hard copies lived, suddenly required manager-level clearance. Clearance I'd had for 8 years. System hiccup. IT swore.
Sure.
The thunder hit on a gray Thursday morning. All hands op sync. Cameras half off, mics muted, people clicking pens like Morse code. Randall logged in late, disheveled, the way men look when they're plugging leaks they can't even see. He waited until the end, then leaned forward, eyes locked into his webcam like Wi-Fi dominance was a thing. I just want to remind everyone, he said, calm but knife thin. Transparency is not the same as sabotage. If you have concerns, bring them through proper channels. This is a company, not a courtroom. Then the kicker. Jennifer, I trust you understand how much your role relies on discretion. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Even Kyle stopped clicking his pen. I unmuted, met his gaze, smiled. Of course, Randall. Discretion's always been my specialty.
Click.
Muted again. I could have walked straight to HR right then. But I waited. Because I knew what was coming. Sure enough, the next morning, an email hit my inbox like a rock through stained glass. Subject, alignment on evolving role responsibilities. Sent by some HR drone I'd never even met. The body was corporate word salad, realignment, cross-functional agility, evolving mandates. Translation, pack your box. Buried in paragraph 4 was the heart of it. We'd like to explore how your skills might be applied in a more advisory capacity, with less direct involvement in budget oversight. Translation. Keep your eyes off the money. I stared at the screen so long pepper me out at me like I died. But I didn't panic. I opened a fresh Google Doc, titled it Chronology, Retaliation, and started typing.
Date. Time.
Action.
Who?
I started logging everything. Dates, times, actions, who sat in a room, what got said, who made eye contact, and who deliberately avoided it. Slack exchanges, calendar edits. Even the way Randall's smile tightened when someone asked the wrong thing. I captured it all. If they were stacking a file against me, they were going to trip on their own evidence. And then came the slip. Hidden deep in an old vendor directory. misfiled by a contractor with no surname. A simple PDF, scanned and signed. Randall's name, 6 weeks old. It approved an off-site strategic alignment retreat for a consulting group we'd never formally engaged. But the retreat wasn't in the Q3 budget. The invoice, $17,850. Location, Lake Tahoe. Guest list, executive cohort, private booking. In the notes, scrawled in Randall's lazy, cramped handwriting, were 5 words that froze me. Keep this off the books. Nothing fancy, no cover story, just raw arrogance carved in ink. I screenshotted it, dropped it on an encrypted flash drive, forwarded a copy to a dummy email, printed 2 hard sets, one for Miguel, one hidden inside a hollowed-out copy of The Art of War on my shelf. It felt fitting. The timer had officially started. Randall could smell something burning, but had no clue where the flames were. And men like him? They unravel ugly. They don't own mistakes. They smother them under realignment reviews, pointless committees, and memos laced with fake smiles. But I wasn't rattled anymore. I was iron.
Sharpening.
Then the quiet ping on Slack. Logan M., Senior Compliance. I know what you're building. I've got proof too. I stared at the bubble like it was a flare in the dark. Logan. Always the quiet shadow. Longer tenure than Randall, never chased titles, just executed with surgical precision. Half asleep in meetings, but always listening. I answered with one word, coffee. We met in the Atrium Cafe like extras in a spy flick. He stirred his black coffee and slid a thin envelope across the table without looking at me. Inside, 6 printed emails, 3 expense sheets, and 1 reimbursement form with a strange red correction. Client dinner crossed out, replaced with executive morale summit. Logan's voice was low. Those dinners weren't client meetings. They were Randall, Kyle, and 2 VP buddies drinking at Randall's country club. Compliance had flagged it last year. Overridden. By who? Logan didn't need to say. Later that day, another ping, this time in my personal inbox. No subject, no name. Just a PDF and 1 line. She said if I didn't sign it, I'd never get a reference again. The doc was an NDA, airtight and brutal. Former finance support staffer. She'd questioned bonus discrepancies in payouts, and within 2 weeks she was gone. The NDA was dated 4 days after her internal complaint. Signed not by HR, but by Cynthia Ka, the CEO's wife. I dropped it into my growing appendix. Tier 2 evidence now. Not just my findings, but the buried voices surfacing one by one. That night, I met Miguel again. He read each page slowly, silent as stone. Then, without looking up, he flipped open a leather folio and pointed at his calendar. You're presenting next Thursday, he said. Closed door. Strategy realignment session. What's the strategy? I asked. He gave the faintest smile. Depends on what you put in front of them. The pressure hit like thunder. I walked to my car with the folder clutched under my arm. The air tasted like ozone, storm past or storm coming. I couldn't tell. Under the flickering streetlight, I realized I wasn't carrying this alone anymore. They had demanded silence. What they got was a chorus of people who remembered too much and had finally stopped being afraid. The board thought they were getting an efficiency update. What they'd actually get was a reckoning. By Monday, the office had the strange stillness of a hurricane's eye.
Calm, but charged.
The lobby TVs blared a looping broadcast. Randall, Tylis, staged in front of a fake bookshelf, selling his corporate sermon. We're streamlining roles to align with evolving goals. This isn't about individual value, but about future structure. Translation. Heads are about to roll, and he wanted me painted as the first. By noon, Slack was on fire. Threads, whispers, even a tag. Hashtag Jennifer Update. I said nothing. Just watched the scroll like ticker tape. Kyle cornered me near the elevator, dripping fake sympathy. Rough week, huh? Let me know if I can grab anything off your plate. He grinned like I hadn't already stacked a mountain of receipts with his name on it. Appreciate it, I told him, but I've got everything exactly where it belongs. Randall's play was obvious. Drown the room in noise. rewrite the narrative, make me look like I was voluntarily fading out. A classic move, loud gestures, no real action, hoping that by Thursday no one even remembered I was supposed to speak. But I wasn't rattled. My door was closed. Phone off. Screens lit. I was finishing the deck, 14 slides, no colors, no fluff. Just dates, figures, invoices, audit trails, screenshots. Facts sharpened into blades. One slide carried only 5 words. Randall's handwriting scrawled across that vendor invoice. Keep this off the books. That was slide 9. It didn't need commentary. It spoke louder than I ever could. Slide 11 displayed a chart of discretionary spending over 6 quarters. Randall's fingerprints lit up like neon. Slide 12 exposed bonus payouts cross-matched against employee reviews. Slide 13 compared departmental efficiency after the merger, when Randall gutted headcount and bragged we were leaner than ever, with now. The result? Higher costs, weaker output. Slide 14 was insurance. Signatures. Randall's, Cynthia's, plus an internal memo greenlighting the NDA shoved at the finance assistant. The timestamp? 2 hours after she filed a whistleblower complaint. Everything I'd bitten back in meetings, I loaded into those slides. The folder lived in 3 places: an encrypted flash drive, a cloud account disguised as Q4 brand alignment, and one hard copy printed on archival stock, sealed and marked for delivery if I got cut off. I didn't trust Randall to play fair. Neither did Miguel. His text the night before was blunt. Session is locked. Only board, finance, legal, and you. No surprises. That meant Randall was maneuvering, and I had to be sharper. So I drilled it. Alone in my apartment, with only my unimpressed cat for company, I rehearsed until my voice carried the precision of a surgeon reciting steps. No drama, no anger, just clean clarity. I wasn't showing up to disgrace Randall. I was showing up to replace him. By Wednesday night, recruiters had slid into my LinkedIn with 3 offers, and 2 executives dropped me thinly veiled messages about how valued I was. I ignored them. Let them sweat. Let them whisper that I was unraveling. Because Thursday morning, when I stepped into that boardroom, they wouldn't meet the woman they thought they'd buried. They'd meet the version I'd buried for a decade. The one who built the walls and knew exactly where to set the explosives. The boardroom smelled like stale coffee and wealth. 7:58 a.m., 2 minutes early, exactly my plan. In these rooms, whoever speaks first loses ground. The lights were low but clear. The morning haze pressed gray against the glass, shadows stretched across polished oak. 12 chairs. 9 filled. Miguel nodded from the far end. At center, Helena Roth, the chairwoman, posture sharp as cut stone. Legal to her left, CFO to her right. One chair conspicuously empty. Randall's. I didn't need to ask. I already knew. Jennifer, Helena said, voice cold as marble. You may begin. No greetings. No courtesies. Just war. I slotted in the USB. Open the file. Operational review. Internal efficiency audit. Title slide up for 2 seconds. Long enough to register. Not long enough for interruption. Slide 2. Duplicate vendor contracts. Between Q2 and Q4 last year, 3 separate vendors billed for the same campaign. All invoices paid. Only one budgeted. Silence. Pens clicked. Slide 3. Consulting charges coded as client entertainment. One dinner at Oak and Thorn ran $3,480. Attendees listed as client leads were actually Apex employees. All executives. 0 clients. A soft scoff slipped from the CFO. Slide 4. Travel breakdown. 5 Miami trips, no client ties, 3 on weekends, 2 billed to R&D. Slide 5. Retention bonuses blown past policy caps. 1 employee pocketing $12,000 above threshold with no approval trail. I didn't glance up. Didn't flinch. Slides 6, 7, 8. Each one heavier, dropping into silence like bricks into still water. Vendor padding. Coaching retreats that were golf trips. Rebranding initiatives that ended with Randall's fraternity buddies toasting at steakhouses. Slide 9. Keep this off the books. projected big, time-stamped, circled in red. Randall's own handwriting on a ghost invoice. The air thickened. Still, no one spoke.
Slide 10.
Discretionary spend ballooning under Randall's watch. Productivity flat. Slide 11. Legal flag transaction. June audit. High risk ignored. Slide 12. Authorization signature. Randall. It filled the screen. His smug name inked beneath a transfer routed to a shell company with no services rendered, no W-9 filed. A straight compliance breach. I let the silence stretch. 7 whole seconds. Then Helena's voice cut through. Backups. Yes, I said. Finance received hard copies yesterday. Complete documentation, audit trails, testimony, NDAs, all appended. She turned to the CFO. You have them? He nodded, slow. They're thorough. Another pause. Helena leaned back, fingers steepled, her eyes fixed on me. Any portion of this, she asked, that you believe subjective or not independently verifiable?
No, ma'am.
Every item is time-stamped, signed, or pulled directly from internal systems. Miguel slid a single sheet toward her. I couldn't see the words, but I knew the cadence. The room wasn't doubtful anymore. They were shifting.
Preparing.
No one had to ask where Randall was. They already knew. I stepped back, hands relaxed at my sides. Not defensive. Not theatrical. Just steady. I wasn't there to persuade them. I was there to confirm what they had long suspected but never had the courage or proof to voice. And now they had both. The final slide dissolved and Randall's signature glowed on the screen like a brand when the door slammed open hard enough to rattle hinges. Randall Kane burst in, no knock, no excuse, just raw intrusion, like a man barging into his own intervention and pretending it's a surprise party. His suit was crushed, his tie undone. He looked like he hadn't slept, sweat beaded on his brow and his jaw trembled as if he hadn't eaten either. Excuse me, he barked, trying for casual and landing somewhere strangled. I wasn't told about this meeting. Helena didn't flinch. Legal stayed impassive. The CFO kept scribbling. Randall's eyes darted for allies and landed on Miguel. No help. They landed on me. I didn't move. I stayed rooted in front of the screen, remote still in my hand, the last slide minimized but hanging there like a rope. This is highly irregular, he pushed, voice climbing. If there are questions about budget or structure, they should come through my office. The word jammed and choked out. Mutiny, slandered, unfair. He never finished because Nathaniel Byers, Apex's lead investor and a man who rarely spoke, lifted a single hand like a conductor lowering the final note. Let her finish, he said, quiet and absolute. Randall froze as if the floor had vanished. This is outrageous, he snapped louder now. You can't entertain half-baked allegations from an operations manager. Nathaniel cut him off coolly. You are no longer required. The words fell like a stone. No theatrics, just finality. Randall's mouth opened, closed. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. The kind of hush you only hear at a funeral or when a vault slams shut. Helena pushed back her chair and rose. Security is outside, she said softly. Your access will be revoked by end of day. Any transition requests go through legal. Randall looked around, stunned, like a man waking in the wrong room. You can't be serious, he whispered. No one answered. He turned to me, wide-eyed, pleading, yet there was nothing to salvage, and I was giving him nothing. 2 men in black polos entered from the hall. No cuffs, no force, just the clinical choreography of corporate exile. He didn't resist. He nodded once, small and defeated, and walked out the way he stormed in. The door clicked shut behind him like a verdict. Silence hung, thick and strange. Not jubilation, not relief, just stillness, as if a loud appliance had finally died and the house noticed the quiet. No one reached for water. No one checked phones. Faces turned to me with something that wasn't pity or applause, just recognition. Helena inclined her head. Proceed with Q&A. I breathed once and brought the screen back. The last 3 slides, one mapping financial variances across 3 years, one pinpointing policy holes in procurement and travel, the final proposing a recovery plan using repurposed budget lines and existing teams. I spoke in a steady, clinical tone, no soundtrack, no drama, because this wasn't a TED Talk. It was TRIA. When I finished, I closed the laptop and stepped back. My hands were steady for the first time in ages. Silence held, then a cough, a chair scrape. A lawyer cleared her throat. That was extremely useful. An older board member murmured, "We should have listened years ago." Helena offered no smile, only a single nod. "We'll take it from here." I left without fanfare. No standing ovation, yet each step down the corridor felt lighter, like shedding cement shoes. The day blurred. Slack was dead. HR's restructuring email went out. By lunch, Randall's credentials were revoked. His parking space sat empty by 2. The office was eerily calm, the bully expelled, and people didn't yet know how to exist without the constant threat of being shoved aside. I watched anyway. I watched those who used to look away start meeting eyes again. I watched junior analysts quietly forward old emails, notes Randall had told them to delete, files he'd ordered redacted. They began to sit up straighter. The next morning, Gail found me in the glass conference room with a contract. "We'd like you to stay," he said plainly. "Build something permanent. The offer: Chief of Operational Integrity, reporting to the board, full autonomy to audit, restructure, and enforce compliance. A dotted line to legal, a budget, a seat at the table." I accepted, with one condition. Every team Randall gutted, every bonus he froze, every promotion he blocked, set right, retroactive to the quarter he started siphoning funds into vanity projects. Miguel didn't hesitate. Done. I signed. That afternoon I walked past Randall's old corner office. The door stood open, the desk empty, no framed golf shots, no hidden bourbon bottles. The nameplate was gone, leaving a faint outline like a ghost scorch on the wood. I lingered a moment, taking it in. Cynthia Kane's passive-aggressive line, "You're lucky my husband keeps you," echoed in my head one last time. Then the echo faded. Silence followed. Quiet, earned, final. Thanks for sticking with me, you clever rebels. Hit subscribe, or this fossil might wreak another spectacular mess.